Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. Now, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's the good time of day. We are back at it again today, and I am struggle streaming already, as they like to say. I don't know what just happened, but I had to reboot this entire setup. But we are good to go as of right now. We are on and we are live, and we are talking about our topic today. We are talking about a young man by the name of Young Pharaoh. So get has a, and I'm waiting on my co-host for the day. And as a matter of fact, as I'm sitting here right now, I just dropped the link down there. It's in the comments. So anybody who does want to come on up in a little bit, y'all can definitely do that. But I'm gonna sit up here and I'm gonna wait for Westradamus to get on in here. And as we're getting started, let me see. Let me text him as I'm going along here. Let me make sure that Westradamus is able to get in here and get that link from me. Give me a moment here. Let's see, where is Westradamus? And I think that we should be good here. Up, oh, there we go. There we go. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend himself. It is Westradamus. How are we doing today, brother? Can you hear me? Are we good?
Uh, yeah, I hear you. The question is, do you hear me? You know,
Most definitely. I definitely do hear
yeah.
you. As we're sitting here right now, as I mentioned that starting off, I am struggle streaming today and I apologize for it. So I just got finished sending out that link. So that link is sent out and it is actually there for us as we're going through this today. But we are talking about no one else other than Mr. Young Pharaoh, aka or by his government name. Or is that doxing if I put his government name out there?
Yeah, go on ahead. Let's go. Go on ahead.
All right, so yeah, so we're talking about today. We're talking about Young Pharaoh. We're talking about Mr. Marshall Daniels, and as always, one of the things I always like to make sure I do, whenever we cover any kind of topic like this, and one of the reasons on why it is relevant, one of the reasons why we're talking about it today, is because it's something that's one is in the news about some things, but two is from a legal perspective. And I like to always make sure that as we're going through and we're talking about these things, that we talk about it from that legal perspective on exactly what is going on with Mr. Marshall. And you'll have to forgive me as I'm jumping back and forth here right now. You can probably hear some clicking going back and forth as I'm going because I am trying to get all the stuff that I had up open and ready to go initially. Was now closed down the moment I had to reboot this machine so we can get started here today. So bear with me as we're going through this. But I'm going to let you drive for a little bit as I'm bringing up some of this documentation so I can share the screen and talk about some of these things that are going on with Mr. Young Pharaoh. Because, like I said, there's a lot that's going on here, and I want to make sure that as we're talking about it, it's not that we're just talking about some things, but that I'm actually bringing the receipts with us on what's actually going on with this case and why it could be, or why more than likely it's going to be something that's very problematic here for him going forward. Salute to
uh,
you also, Mr. Mako, Mixmaster Mako. Salute, brother. Salute to you.
oh yeah. Number one, I'm still at work, so hey, if y'all hear some background, hey, I got deadlines, so if you see me looking off on my computer, I am working. So just want to let y'all know that. And number two, this is more of a case study, of a person, and it's not to speak negatively on anything. All we're doing, we're just drawing inferences from the evidence of what's here, and then at the end of the broadcast, we're going to see um, if I was to advise or represent uh, Mr. Daniels, like how would you do it? And I think that we'll be in for a good show today.
Most definitely, most definitely. And I guess one of the things I really want to touch on, and I can let me do a share screen if you don't mind, because I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want
Go
to talk
ahead.
about There's multiple cases that are pending behind Mr. Daniels right now. And one of the ones that's pending right now that I'm looking at, and I want to read it verbatim because I don't want to sit there and take something out of context. I'm always concerned with context, and I think that context definitely does matter. But one of the things I want to talk about, there's a lot of different things that are going on, and there's a timeline that you and I we discussed offline on certain things that are happening with Mr. Young Pharaoh in his life and where he's at right now. But there's a case that's pending, or one of the reasons why he's currently incarcerated and currently being held, and bail was denied. And there's videos that are out there on why some of the things when it talks about terroristic threat, assault against a family member, and the like. I wanted to read. There's no nice way to say this. I want to read what I tell people. Don't do this whole self-snitching thing on yourself, because one of the things that
Yes.
because one of the things that happen here is when you say things, and I say this is a generation of oversharing, because a lot of times what will happen is you'll say something, you'll get angry about it, and then next thing you know, you are uh, telling everyone what your intent is, and you're doing it in a manner that can be recorded, that's not a violation of any kind of Fourth Amendment right. Uh, you're doing all of these things, and everybody is able to see it. They don't even need to get a warrant. They don't need to do anything. You make your job on your attorney infinitely, infinitely harder, right? So you sit up here right now, you're thinking, oh well, we can get that, but you're not getting that information suppressed. It's going to be extremely difficult. And I'm sure there's probably some attorneys out there. I'm not one of those that can get this type of information suppressed. But I'm going to read this verbatim. I say, and if you're able to see my screen, I'm not sure. Are you guys able to see my? Are you able to see my screen here?
I am, but of course it is.
Tiny, small.
Yeah,
Let's see
yeah.
if I can make this a little bigger. Okay. So the two people here that are in this particular case, this is in criminal court at law number 3 here in Harris County in Houston, Texas, and it deals with Mr. Daniels, who is the gentleman that we're talking about today, Mr. Young Pharaoh, and his bodyguard, Mr. Ace Mitchell here. So Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Pharaoh, they have this ongoing issue. I shouldn't say ongoing issue, but the data is prepared and everything is going to be here. This was the sheriff who actually took the statement and here's all the history behind it and everything that's going about has it going with it. But the really interesting aspect of it here is this particular paragraph here. This particular paragraph is one where I'm going to highlight some things, and I want people to recognize. If you ever find yourself and you're angry, you hide, you're going to sit there, you're going to say something to somebody, by all means, don't record it for posterity. Don't reduce it to writing, and don't send it out there, and don't record a video of it on any of these things that's getting ready to happen here. So bear with me here. Here's what it says. It says, complainant Mitchell, that's the bodyguard, Mr. Ace. He said, advises he had been employed by defendant Daniels, who is also known by his rapper alias Young Pharaoh, since January 2021 as defendant Daniels' bodyguard. Complainant Mitchell stated on 8/27/2021, he quit working for defendant Daniels. And since then, defendant Daniels has accused him of stealing jewelry from defendant Daniels' residence and having an affair with defendant Daniels' ex-girlfriend. Complainant Mitchell states he was made aware on 8/31/2021. Defendant Daniels posted a video on his YouTube channel at Nation.
Mm.
And the title of the video is, in quotes here, Ace, return my jury or I'ma put 50,000 on you head. I'm sure it's on your head, but you get the gist of it. So not only is he talking about it in the video, but now it's also he has documented it in the title of the video on what it is he's intending. So the complainant Mitchell advised his nickname is Ace. And in the video, defendant Daniels refers to him as Ace and his bodyguard. Complainant Mitchell stated in the video Defendant Daniel states he's going to place a $50,000 bounty on complainant Mitchell's life. Complainant Mitchell stated he believed this meant Mr. Daniels was placing a contract kill order to have him killed for $50,000. So, and then he goes into the next one where he talks about some of the other things that he said. He's, I'm gonna put 50,000 on your head, or I might do it myself, depending on how I feel. These are statements that when you make them and you put them out there the way that he just did, and you get your attorney, and I'm going to show you some other documentation in regards to the attorney as well, because as I find it hard to believe that the attorney would have a fun time of trying to get some of this information suppressed, let alone trying to come up with some kind of plea deal for Mr. Daniels at this point. So when looking at this type of information, when looking at this type of stuff that's actually put out, where the person puts it out, it's not even a question of, well, maybe it might be confused for somebody else. Was it actually them? As an attorney, you're trying to figure out the different avenues. Well, can we get this thrown out? How did they get this information? Is this a violation of this individual's Fourth Amendment rights? Did they need a warrant in order to procure it? None of those things come up. None of it. And every single avenue where you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, well, and you're not making it any easier when you go back and you begin to look at the history that he has on YouTube of putting out such salacious content, but not just even salacious content that could be used against you in a court of law. And so it goes beyond just being art, especially when he takes it from the perspective, and it's no longer in that perspective of it's just art at this point. Now it goes beyond just being a situation where it's art, or they could argue it not being art. And depending on the jury that you get, those people sitting in that box that's going to judge you, whether they'll believe that it was actually art or not is questionable. And I'm gonna let you take it. I'm gonna pull up some of this other information as you take it. I'm gonna sit there and see if I can pull up some of this other stuff that I had initially pulled up that I now need to repopulate here for myself.
Yeah, I deem it as a nightmare on Clout Street. It's when social media is all about attention, right? And it's all about the views, and then these views turn into sponsorships, and then from these sponsorships, that's how you get money, and Mr. Pharaoh, he's very good at it, he has a well documented of him going through and creating clout for himself and saying salacious things, and no, I believe this is his Icarus. Is he actually flew too close to the sun this time, and actually got bit, or for the young man, for that to happen to the young man, and of course it's unfortunate. But hey, this is not the first time. This is not his first rodeo of making threats. And and then when we start pulling things up, it's not the first documented issue of him doing the threats, which is unfortunate. And then now it's time for you to face consequences, and when consequences come, you can't really oh, I don't want it to come like this or like that. It's very, very unfortunate for the young man, and hopefully he can get some help. Hopefully some mentors, he'll allow mentors to come in your life, because from my understanding that he did have people trying to talk to him and mentor him, and he just rejected them and allowed his ego to take over, so I just wish I wish the best for the young man. Man, it's just a bad situation, and for you just to put in a title, it's like, hey, $50,000, a 50 pack on your head, anything. You have to understand that the code of personality here, he has a following. Anybody any one of his followers might just come around and execute his orders, just because, he is a cult of personality. There's some type of gravity around the gentleman, and that's the reason why he has such a following. And then with that, don't you think somebody was like, hey, I heard about that 50 pack you put on his head. Okay, hey, let me act out on this. And then when he acts out on it, and then what else?
Yeah.
And then he can say, well, I didn't tell you to do it, but so it is kind of like just like a contract, that was issued, which is rather unfortunate,
Very much so. Very much so. Very much so. And I guess let me. I'm going to share my screen again here because as you were talking, one of the things I want to do. I apologize for interrupting you there.
No, go ahead.
There is a lot of stuff. Like I say, there is a reason why he believes there's a credible threat. And it goes to what it is that you just stated, that there is a cult of personality, and that he has the gentleman who is known as Ace, Mr. Mitchell. He was one who thought, hey, he put this out on a YouTube video. There's a real issue here for me, where he was actually fearing for his life. And in listening to him talk about fearing for his life, like you look at how many different counts or how many essentially this one case that they have, because they lumped everything into this one case at this point, and you can see that you have terroristic threats here. From the first file date on this was 9/3/2021 all the way down to 11/23/2021, and there's even an assault on a family member here as a case that he has that's here in Harris County, right? So, and as you go through, you can take a look at all the different the documents, and I've read essentially all of the documents with the exception of, and I'll show you guys because I didn't feel like spending the $6 in order to print this out to take a look at it. But there is just one document that I did not read, and I think I passed it over. Did I pass it over? I think I did. Let me see if I can. Oh, here we go. The state's motion for the magistrate. This one is a restricted document, and I can get it. I just had to add it to my basket. It's $6. I thought about purchasing, as you can see. I clicked on it initially, and I was like, I don't feel like spending $6 to read that. But when he was there was another YouTuber. I just forgot, and I forgot her name. Healing Within is the name of the YouTube channel, and I want to give her some credit because she's the person who spotlighted this on showing the actual time that he went to trial, and they start talking about all the terroristic threats, and that would have been included in this filing here from the state as they were filing for emergency protective order for many of the things, such as him threatening. He calls up and he's like, okay, I want you to kick her out of the apartment. And if you don't kick her out of the apartment, then I'm coming in and I'm going to shoot you up. I need you. And then he calls back and says, have you made that call to her in order and not realizing that when you make that call and you think she's going to make a call or the apartment is going to make a call, they're going to make a call. It's just not the call you want. They're going to be calling the man, right? They calling the man to come get you, right? They calling the cops. It's like, one time's on his way, Popo's on whatever the analogy or whatever the terminology is today for him. They calling the police. They calling the police on you. They come on out there. They're gonna come get you. That's the call they're making. They're not making the call that you're thinking of, the call that you want them to make. They're making that call to make sure that they come get you, to make sure that threat is off their head that you putting out there on coming in to shoot them up in the daytime. So that's one of those issues where I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's not the call that you're thinking, buddy. It's a different call they're gonna be making. It's not the call that you want. So, and that one was 11/23/2021. But that's a 7-page document where they allege all of the issues that will require them, and all the evidence they have that will require them to get a protective order against young Pharaoh. And if he made a phone call, I think in most of these apartment buildings, they record everything.
Yeah, think about like the witnesses, just like in the earshot, man. Like, ugh, that'll be a nightmare.
It's absolutely to me it's astonishing the fact that you have all of those all that information that he's putting out there, and then you even look at the history. And actually, let me before I do that, let me make sure I got the right ones pulled up because it's like I have to go through this whole deal and try and make sure I got the right ones pulled back up by going through the history. Actually, no, that's just again that's more of the same. This is actually just from the Harris County the clerk's data set here. And this is, well, I guess I can share that as well because that's going to be dealing with, it's essentially the same information. Let me here scroll up because I don't want to show the actual address, although it's listed all through. If you do a public record search, this is not private information, but all of these are things that terroristic threat, criminal mischief, more than 750, less than or less than 250. I mean 2,500. Terroristic threat, family house, assault of a family member, assault of a family member. All of these for misdemeanor terroristic threats. Every single count. How many different counts do you have that he's going to be going in there for? And each one of them being documented is the issue. That as a so he has now,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
And isn't like the rule like if you have like 3 misdemeanors, they can lump that into a felony, a felony charge and all that good stuff. So
start putting it up.
yeah, yeah. So Mr. Pharaoh, he does need to be careful. Please be careful in what you do. Just real quick while you are clicking, I just want to hey, if you're watching this, all right, you're not getting this anywhere. All right, please like, subscribe, share. This is some cutting edge stuff. We're giving this stuff out for free, and put like this. Hey, we're doing the legwork for you. No, we working here for you. We working here. All right. matter of fact, I'm at work and working for you over here.
There it is. There it
Give
is.
us a like. Give us a subscribe.
Give us a comment
Give us
here.
something. Yeah, give us a comment.
If you like it, share it. There's also the Patreon. That information is going to be down below. So if you just want to buy us coffee or whatever, as I say, that information is definitely down there below in the description. But all of these things that are going on in his case, there's even a situation where there was a letter of representation here. This is one of the things that I mentioned, and I need to come back to it. Letter of representation. I'm not going to click on it, but because it's the attorney that's representing, then the attorney has a motion of withdrawal as counsel of record. So the attorney that was representing him now says that they don't want to represent him anymore. And the reason that they gave in that letter was that he's no longer talking to them. So they're not able to effectively represent young Pharaoh. And then they were granted it, and now they're appointing new counsel for Mr. Pharaoh. So these are some of the things that are going on in his case that he gets representation, has an attorney that's representing him, gets rid of that attorney, gets a new attorney at this point. And that's a very difficult situation that you're dealing with. Like looking at something else, and that was not where I was intending to go. So I should have.
Oh man, that's very telling about like just not just that, but just like the strength of like on the case, like hey, if somebody asked just to be removed, clearly one or two things you can draw from that is the first thing is, hey, I'm not getting out of jail anytime soon. That's the first. I'm not getting out. Like help,
You ain't getting me. You ain't doing your job. You ain't getting me out fast enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, hey, prison stories, man. That's the first thing. The second thing is, they call us counselors, for a reason. We're supposed to counsel you through through your problems and through your issues, and clearly, you have to you have to cooperate. Like, hey, you can't start, going on your rhetoric whenever somebody's trying to help you out. It's like, hey, your life is like in the hands, is in your counselor's hands, your lawyer's hands, and if you're like, oh, I can't do this, and or whatever, whatnot, or you stop responding back to them, like that's, you know,
That's huge.
what can we do for you? Is kind of telling. And then number two, or number three is, do you want to actually stay in jail? You know, uh, let me just say this, and then after that, we'll get back on topic. I'm tired of like the degenerate behavior being, uh, just being glamorized. I was like, or being like, hey, you're not black enough, you know, or that's being called black doing, degenerative behavior,
Right.
and or that's being clapped up or celebrated. No, like, hey, jail is not the spot. Okay, it is not the spot. Like when you go in there, when you do jail docket, it stinks. Like matter of fact, you're gonna have to put your clothes in the cleaners like multiple times. Hey, I put mine in 4 days straight just to get the stench out of there. Jail
Yeah,
docket is not the spot. Okay, I'm just telling you, it smells
not where
like,
you want to be.
oh, and you want to stay in there. Ah, ah. I mean, if that was me, I'd be like, hey, judge, hey, what do you need me to do? Get me up out of here. Please get me up out of here, But that's just me.
I'm in the same boat. I say so. There's some other things I was gonna point out for, but that whole jail docket thing.
Yeah, man.
Man, I say you sit there, you get somebody that's in there, and it's like, do you want to get out? What do you want to do? I say, and if you're not talking, if you're not communicating, if you're not sitting there working with counsel, if you're not as a as difficult as is, and then it's like you start looking at all the evidence that's compiled against you. It's like this is gonna as a
Yeah, but put like this. You go in there, right? Because like me personally, I was like this. I was put my finger up on my nose. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, is Jenkins ready yet? Because you gotta sit there, wait for your client. You're like, here, Jenkins ready yet? Okay, no. And then after that, when you're talking to the judge, you gotta like talk like in breaths because you don't want to breathe in, because you don't want to get like right like on your tongue. So you're like, yeah, judge. And that's how bad it is. And people just like, okay, so you actually want to stay in there? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm with you.
I'll stop.
Yeah,
I PTSD. So
no,
PTSD.
as a it's one of those things you get to thinking about it. You like
Yeah.
it's like I don't
PTSD.
want to be
Sorry.
like I don't want to be here. But has the other thing like he's going through a name change right now, where it looks like he's in that process of it. That's actually being done in Fort Bend County. Actually, I should just pull up the
Houston, Texas.
well, yeah, well, so it's right next to Houston, Texas. So Houston, Texas, you have Fort Bend County, you have Harris County, you have Montgomery County, which is the adjacent counties around us. But Houston is in Harris County, but the south, if you're in anyway. So all of it is part of it. But here's some of the other suits or whatever that he has that's currently going on. So here in Fort Bend, he also has some situations where he's paternity's pending for the child. Uh, I guess they have a custody order that's also pending down there in Fort Bend, and there is this all other family law matters, which is going to be the name change that he's actually going through as well. So he's been pretty busy. Not to mention he has a suit that went has a for him. Well, this was one where he has a gun charge on him, and then there's also the situation with him in California where he sued Google, which is Alphabet. That's the parent company of Google. So Sergey and Larry have decided that Google wasn't enough for them, so they have YouTube, Google, and several other companies. And now the parent company for all of those is going to be Alphabet. So he sued Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google and of YouTube. So he sued them, and there's a order granting motion to dismiss first amended complaint that he made. So they filed these. These are the other motions that were filed, but he has quite a bit on his record at this point, and there's quite an uphill battle that he's going to be fighting for the perception of the court. A good attorney normally will make sure that all this other information, the ancillary case information, is going to be suppressed and kept out of the current proceedings. You don't want to sit there and be fighting that war on multiple fronts, but at the same time, you're looking at that history. If they can find a way on how to introduce that history in, you're going to be fighting to make sure it doesn't, whether it's by how much time has passed, relevancy to the current case and whatnot. But it's not really looking that good. And I know that you have a chronological order that you want to cover this in. What was the first case that you want to talk about in regards to Pharaoh?
Yeah, with that, I believe he had a gun charge in, I think, Erie County. That's up in Buffalo, New York. I believe that's where he's from. And I think that was resolved back in 2017, I believe.
Yeah. So this would be the, if I'm not mistaken, because so this would be the weapons charge that you're referring to, because he actually appealed this weapons charge, and it went up to an appellate court there in New York.
Yeah, that that's unfortunate, and those things kind of happen. Hey, somebody can plant something on you, whatever, and then and you already know that that's going to be a stranglehold like on your resources. Remember, he's getting, I don't know what else does he do for a living, because I'm not really in his business or anything like that, or nor do I represent him or anybody represents him right now. But I believe his main source of income was, just from this gathering, just research, from evidence. I'm just grasping at tea leaves here. That he gets most of his money from YouTube and streaming, because I know he has a Twitch channel and things like that. So being an entertainer is what he gets most of his money off of. And then after the weapons charge, then he sues Michael Howick, aka you know him as Brother Polite, for defamation in LA, in the California court. With that, remember, he's on the other end of at that time he was still living in Buffalo, so that is a very expensive suit he was embarking upon, just to, just file. You have to file an attorney, and then file suit, find an attorney that'll file suit for you, and all those logistics, that's not cheap, and yeah, it's not at all. And then that got dismissed, I believe, in 2019. I believe, and then after that, then he files another suit against Google, and remember, that's where you get your money from, so now you're trying to bite the hand that actually feeds you, and I don't understand like the all the contents of the case and the statement of facts and things like that, but once you bite the hand that feeds you, you already know that they're going to probably shut down all your streams, and all that AdSense and all your sponsorships, and they're going to cut you off, and I think here that's where we start seeing like that decline, because of especially like when people start losing money. I'm not saying anything on Mr. Young Pharaoh or anything like that, but just in general, like normally, like when people like, hey, you making $10,000 a month off YouTube and things like that, then now YouTube just cuts it off, and now you're trying to go here and there and try to rob Peter to pay Paul and things like that. That's going to play some type of mental effect on you. Especially if you have kids, and I believe that he had like 2 wives. I read somewhere. I'm not. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
I
And
have no idea. As a, you might be right. I haven't been able because I went through and I tried to do a search on some other cases because I've heard some other information as well, and which is one of the reasons why I didn't bring it up. But I've heard quite a bit about the young man, and in looking at it, I was trying to see if I can find other information specifically in regards to the situation with him shooting one of the mothers of the kids or gunfire going on with one of the mothers. I haven't been able to find it, so I'm not going to allege it or talk about it if I can't find any kind of documentation regarding it.
oh yes, yes. We don't want to do a secondhand account or anything like that. But just the mental health, and it takes a toll on you. Like especially like, hey man, you're riding high, and then after that it goes down to zero, and you have to understand like in this and how this system is set up is the system is set up for people of skills. You know, and you have to be skilled. You have to have something. It's like, hey, I got CDL. I go on. Hey, I have a coding. Anything. Forklift license. Anything you can rely upon. And the gentleman, he didn't have nothing he can rely upon. It's like, hey, only thing that he had was YouTube and being an outrageous personality, and had to be in the whole Icarus of that is once you set like a bar of how you act, you're going to have to keep on upping that bar. So therefore you can keep on getting that clout, and that's what I said. It's Nightmare on Clout Street,
I agree.
and thus it brought him to that edge. He started flying a little bit too close to the sun, and and then and then I know people talking about, oh, he's broke. He, a only thing that he can afford is a court appointed attorney. Well, you have to understand, like, there's a lot of great court appointed attorneys. Like, hey, they get paid very well. That's the reason why they accept those appointments. It just sometimes clients become difficult and things like that. A lot of people eat off that, and I don't understand why that has a bad rap. Don't get me wrong. Um, you may not get the best of the best. Like you're not going to get like a five-star service, but you'll get a very serviceable one. And so nobody should be bagging on him for a court appointed attorney and things like that. And plus, hey, he might still have a little bit of money saved up, and knowing that he has all these lawsuits and litigations going out there still, possibly coming up in the future, it'd be smart to start investing that money.
Most definitely.
Hopefully don't fall for a crypto scam or anything like that. But but
But that's what I'm concerned with right now because he has all these different issues with him in court. He even had an issue where it looks like he has a default judgment against him in New York, in a New York State court as well, against one of his corporations, his LLC. So he's hemorrhaging money is one of the other issues that's going on. So he's hemorrhaging money. Not only is he hemorrhaging money, he is a cautionary tale, at least to me. One of the things that we talked about earlier is that in going through this whole process, he keeps on getting his own way. When you put stuff out there, you start to mark out for your own gimmick. So he has that personality that he's been pushing, and now that he's out there and he's doing his thing. When as a instead of me as a like sometimes you'll hear things and you're like, oh man, this that and this that and the other. So what I like to do a lot of times, what we done, and you and I we've been talking on the back end about this, is to go back in and take a look and say, okay, what's the actual document, what's been sworn to, what's there, what's in court, what's actually there. And when I actually began to look at the history of other cases he's been involved in, and I began to look at the situations that he's involved in now, and I look at the YouTube videos that he's put out in regard to this situation, there's nothing that he put out that I would think that, oh, okay, that could be helpful. Oh, that might help out. Everything that he did that he's put out so far it reminds me of this situation that just happened with this YouTuber Tasha K. And all the way along the line, Tasha K, in regard to Cardi B, regardless of how you might feel about Cardi B, everything along the line. She's been given or provided a way out. She's been given an avenue to get out of that, and she just stuck to the gimmick that she has of Tasha K. And then when you look at the court documentation and you hear other people who's covered it who are also attorneys, and they talk about some of the, she knows she's putting on an act. She knows that she's sitting out there. She's giving out this. Oh, look at this, like it's WWE, right? And
Yeah,
she's
right. Yeah.
people on WWE, and she cannot get out of the way of her own act. And I'm looking at the same thing with young Pharaoh at this point. I'm like, okay, young brother, it's like you said, you're suing people who probably have tried to help you. You're not listening to people who are actually interested in the outcome that you have in life, whether it's from a financial standpoint or just you as an individual. And I prefer if they were interested in him as an individual, as opposed to the financial. But even if you have someone who's interested in from a financial standpoint, right? They just want to get in your pocket. They're interested in you. They have a vested interest in what it is that you're doing to make sure they can continue getting paid, and you keep on stepping on the bag for them. In either event, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's a very difficult situation to be put in, because it's like he's going down that same road. I'm young Pharaoh. It's like, nah, you're
Ego, man.
yes, you're Marshall Daniels, the moniker.
Yes.
And right now, the name change, I guarantee you, the name change is probably gonna be to Young Pharaoh. I'm like, oh, you're not Young Pharaoh. You are Marshall Daniels. Get outside of that. Don't stick to the Young Pharaoh moniker that you have. Actually, get on doing something else. Let me catch this one comment that we had that just came in. I apologize. Peace, comrade, just tapping in. Appreciate you. As a Mr. Awesome Dre, 7 Mile Awesome Dre. Thank you for stopping on in. Thank you very much. Be blessed, brother. Be blessed. And if I do owe you an apology, let me know, man. Let me know if I owe you an apology, if I went too hard in the paint. I say, because it wasn't meant as criticism. It was meant to show love, because I enjoyed what you were putting out. And I really had to tell you that. I enjoyed that thoroughly. And if you haven't seen him, I would definitely advise going over to his channel. Is there, it's in his name, 7 Mile Awesome Dre. He puts out good content. I love that, brother. Thank you for dropping in, brother.
Yeah. So now here, let me start asking you a question.
Go for it.
If you were to represent Mr. Young Marshall Daniels, not the personality known as Young Pharaoh or General Otten, how would you how would you go about it?
If I were representing him,
But first, here we have a comment. Here, address the comment, and then after that, here, I really want to.
Perfect. Love you, bro. I say, and like I said, the other one is going to be a whole lot better than that one. I say, because I love your content. I definitely love your content, brother. Definitely love it. I say, let me get back to this question real fast, but I love that comment there, brother. So if I'm in that situation and I have to address Mr. Daniel, you know, the best thing for me to do would be to do this. Okay, so if they come across and someone comes and they say, hey, would you mind representing Mr. Daniels? Okay, so the first thing I probably want to do, I would want to take a look at what am I getting myself into? That's that whole due diligence that we talk about, right? As an attorney, you sit there, you look at it, you're trying to figure out the case. What am I walking myself into? Right. So I'm looking at it. I'm going to do door law, whatever comes through my door, I'm going to represent. But if I'm looking at this and I'm seeing all of these different charges on this one individual, right, that's on my screen right now. So I'm looking at all these different charges because I'm thinking in my head, everything else that we talked about, whether it is the suit against Google, Brother Polite, the suit against that he wrongfully charged against him, whether I'm looking at any of the other charges that we talked about, that's aside from this, the paternity suit and all that other stuff. In my head, I'm going, I don't need to worry about those. Those are things I can get expressed. We can sit there, we can file motion limines and and try as I make sure that they're not relevant to what it is that we're dealing with today. And if I look at this information here, and in addition to this information here, if I go back and I look at this information here and I see a motion to withdraw as counsel of record, attorney of record, as a withdrawal attorney of record, I would probably also contact the other attorney of record to find out exactly what's going on, and that's, why was there withdrawal on the back end, just to find out exactly what they're talking about as a why, how difficult of a client. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I would look at that case and I would say I am not taking that case.
So you would just
I would look at all
said
this.
no.
I would if I'm looking at the body of information that we have here. So I'm looking at a motion to withdraw as attorney of record. If I'm looking at they just appointed new counsel. If I look at the letter, so from letter of representation, let's see, that's 11/24. 3 months later, I have a motion to withdraw within 3 months from an attorney. That's not good to me. I say so
Oh, of
within.
course, trouble
So
in
within
paradise.
so if I'm looking at there's a letter of representation to be the attorney, and then within 3 months you're asking to no longer be the attorney. I say, and then I look at what you wrote to the court. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, that's what you wrote to the court. So now I want to talk to the attorney of record as well. And I look at the numerous charges that are there for Mr. Daniels. For me personally, I am not just hesitant. I would look at that and hearing, especially like I said, if I were to look at the hearing and the different things that he put out there on YouTube, that would be not just be a pass, that'd be a hard pass for me. That would be a hard.
all the self-snitching.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, oh, I can get some stuff suppressed. Oh no, they can't bring that stuff in. We're gonna suppress that information. Yeah, that evidence. How did they get that? Wait, you put it out on YouTube. So you gave it to. So not only there's a third party and it's against yourself. Okay, so I can't do that. Okay, so that's going to be difficult. So but I can probably file a motion. Okay, but there's nothing else there. Wait, you made a threat against the apartment, and it's record. Ah, okay. That's difficult also. Okay, so you called in and you put it on Facebook Live with you and your ex. Nah, hard pass. Hard pass. That's one of those. It's like the brother can't get out of his own way, and it's like I need you to do me a favor. I say Deshaun Watson just did it. I watched it with Rusty Hart, and that was when you talk about a phenomenal client. Watching him sit there and Rusty Hart and talk and take all these questions, and then Deshaun, when they asked him a question, he looked at Rusty. He stepped to the podium. He said all the nicey nice things. Then he stepped right back. And it was like he did the exact same thing time and time again. It's like at no time did he get in his way. You let Rusty sit there and do that talking. He's like, I'm going to get out of the way. This brother here is not doing that. This brother here is making it extremely difficult. And I'm sure that he feels, I know the law. I know how to represent what you know is that you're going to be spending a lot of time behind bars. You're going to be gone to November for a long time. That's what that's going to be.
So like, if this was me, if I was representing him, the first thing I would do, I would try to sever these charges, and I'll just focus on one charge, only one, with the threats, and I would make an argument on this particular one. Of course, this is all hypothetical. I am not representing anybody. I'm not trying to give any type of legal advice. I'm not practicing law here. This is all theories. This is all conjecture. This is we're in brainstorm world.
Right.
Not doing anything, right? Okay.
Not legal advice. I got you.
Yeah. That's not real advice. This is anything. All right. So the first thing I would do, you're gonna have to set. If this was Barney, all right, instead of Pharaoh, so Barney. So we're representing Barney the purple dinosaur. I would try to sever the charges immediately, and see which ones I can actually get severed. Of course, have to be in that course, and make sure that they're not all with the same nucleus of facts and things like that. Sever it. Then I would go after it. If they said a terroristic threat and things like that, say, hey, 40,000 on your head. I would try to do it such as a entertainment. You know, uh, make sure that Barney did not try to manifest any type of intent with this. You know, like no intent whatsoever. Type thing, you know. So if he was able to and try to play it off like that, you know, just like how rappers they can rap, say, "Hey, I'm trying to kill somebody," things like that,
Right.
and that's protected First Amendment speech. And they actually said the actual particular person, you know, in there, you know, say, "Hey, I'm trying to kill this person," you know, like with the Chicago drill, you know, with BMG Duck and things like that, Little Dirk and things like that. They actually said they're going to kill this person actually in the rap, and they said, "Hey, that's just a freedom of expression." And I would try to take that angle with my arguments on that one. But that's like that would be part of my strategy. Sever and then try to use that as First Amendment protected speech because he is an entertainer, you know, and he just did that just to entertain, and then that's his intent. That's the reason why he said it. He never said, "Hey, I want you to go harm this person," you know. So and then after that, I will, you know, tell him that he just needs to leave a microphone alone and stay out of stay out of the limelight. You know, um, that's how I would do for him.
I hear you. Because for me, it's like when you said several, as the first question that came on my mind, and you answered how you would go about doing it. Because for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of even if you could sever everything, right, and you can get it down to just a terroristic threat, and this particular terroristic threat that you want to be attacking, is it artistic expression or not becomes the question. And here, when I'm looking at the complaint in Mitchell, this is where, for me, this is where it becomes really problematic. When I'm looking at what Mitchell complained about on the Ace Return My Jewelry, or I'm gonna put 50,000 on your head, and then it was he advised that his name was Mitch. He was the ace that he was talking about. He was. Da, 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 da. It's not just that I'm worried about his threat from me. It's also the threat that he's saying that I'm gonna put 50,000 on your head, or I might come do it myself, depending on how I feel. Is that artistic or not becomes the question. Depends on who you have in that box that you're going to be sitting there talking to, telling that story.
Well,
And,
from my research, you don't announce those kind of things. You just don't. You know,
yeah,
that's like reading from like a movie script or something like that. From my research, you know,
yeah,
you don't just say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna put 50 on your head," or put me down for a 50 pack on this guy. You know, like it that just doesn't happen. You know, it just doesn't
it
happen.
shouldn't.
You
You think
know,
that when you're telling that story, you got the 12 in the box, right? That you're telling this story to,
yeah,
right?
right.
That's what in my head, I'm always going to, can I win when I'm telling this story to the 12 in the box, right? How credible is that story going to be for them that this is not, that he didn't really mean any of this stuff? And I know for a fact, if I'm sitting on the other side, like talking about you severed everything else, and now we're just focusing on just this situation of I put 50,000 on your head. That was an artistic. That wasn't a threat. That was artistic license. I'm a rapper. I say this type of stuff all the time. Look at some of my
Hmm.
other musicals. Da, 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 da. And if I'm on the other side of that, if I'm looking at it, and you have to think,
Prosecutor. Mm.
yeah, are they competent? I don't know. Are they competent or not? But if you have a competent prosecutor on the side, and now that you open that door, they start bringing up other things that you put out there on YouTube, and they start bringing out other things that might have or have not happened, because now you bring up is do you have a motion in limine? Well, this starts getting technical, but do you have something that suppresses the evidence of the gun charge that you previously had? Do you have anything that suppresses the evidence on any of the other stuff? Because if you can't get all the other information or evidence suppressed, then what ends up happening is, for me, the uphill battle becomes, once you're looking at it, now you have a situation where this brother's sitting down and you're walking through it, and you're trying to, like I said, you have everything severed. We're only dealing with this particular case. how much evidence comes in from the other cases at this particular time. And that becomes to me that's where I began to have the issue of, do I want to play with that particular case with that particular set of circumstances? It's possible, like you say, sever it and try to see if you can get as much information or evidence as possible. I don't know how much of that can you say is artistic license when I'm telling the story, because in my head it always comes down to, if push comes to shove and I have to be the storyteller, because that's what you're going to be doing, right? Both sides have the same evidence or same facts, same law. You know what law you're going to analogize to and distinguish from. You know what the facts are. They know what the facts are because you've gone through it in discovery. Am I going to be able to tell a convincing enough story to the 12 in the box to see that on the other side of it, that they go, yeah, I can believe that. Who would put that stuff out there like that? That must be an artistic license, without being able to go, well, yeah, that's an artistic license, but he also has a history of gun violence. He also has a history of violence.
But see
So,
me, I'd be like, I'll just try to just confuse and delay. Either you can argue the facts, argue the law, or confuse and delay. And that's the thing that I would be doing. I'll just be confusing and delaying. I'll be like OJ Simpson. Was it 10 inches or was it 12 inches? Or was it 6 inches? Like, was it, or was it 4 inches? Like, how far were you from the glove? Like, matter of fact, clearly, um, but any smart person, I'm just, if I was to say like, hey, what were those conversations were like? They're probably asking him probably to take a deal, and he probably just like, no, I'm not taking a deal.
yeah,
But I
I'm
would take
gonna,
a deal.
I want to read the comment here, because as I'm thinking about it, because as a 7 Mile Awesome Dre, he done summarize it succinctly for me from that Friday line. That's your ass, Mr. Postman. Because that's
Man,
what I'm thinking in my head when I'm looking at this. I'm like, can I get this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at all of them, like all the evidence that might come here, and I'm going, that is my. I'm like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna respectfully. It's one of the reasons why I stick with mediation. I just do mediations. It's like because everything else is like.
I'm just saying, hypothetically,
Yeah,
like, hey, if you had to represent this guy, this young man, you know, that would be the route I would go. Like a matter of fact, the only route you
it's
could
pretty much,
go.
yeah. I say, because for me, and immediately what I'm thinking is, how much information can I get suppressed, right? If I'm looking at a situation and I don't have a lot of information, all that evidence, I can't suppress that. If I can't suppress the evidence, um, everything, or there's not a good chance of suppressing that evidence, because ultimately it comes down.
No,
Can I?
no, like or like, don't worry about suppressing the evidence. Why don't you just turn into like a mudslinging contest? Because at the end of the day, the the whole case is rest off the credibility of the bodyguard. Okay, and hey, you
No, no,
know,
it's not. It's not just the credibility of the bodyguard at that point, right? Because now you have, he put out a YouTube video and multiple YouTube videos. It'd be different if so there's the one that we're talking about, which is in question, the 50,000 on your head video. But I've also seen several other videos that he's talked about that same situation in those videos, and so
oh wow,
it's multiple videos that you're gonna have to contend with on not just being that oh, it's just because you can always say, if it's just one, I can say it's just salacious content. I put it out there. It's artistic, like the argument you're making. It, I just put that out there because it's salacious content. I knew that it would give me views. I make my money on YouTube. Um,
their clout chase and nightmare.
yeah, as a the whole as a but then you would bring in the as a I wouldn't maybe I wouldn't go that far with it, because then you start to bring in the Google case that he has, because like he sued.
But then again, you like, if you do watch like the clout chases, I don't mean to bring these people in, but like the Island Boys, they they're clout chasers too, and they beef with people, put guns all up in the, all of the videos and things like that. So like, hey, hey, if they're getting away with artistic, okay, how, you can try to draw a parallel here. If I hypothetically, but clearly, of course, everything in the case is problematic. It's like a homeless dog with fleas on it. But if if you had to do it, there's a way to get it done. No, of course, of course, you're not gonna share all your tricks and things like that. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, just for like a basic hypothetical, you know, that's where that's in that gray area, and as long as you maintain to try to stay in that gray area, you
That
know,
that's the problem. And I
all it
like the
takes is
comment.
one.
Yeah, has it? Because I'm
All,
looking at the comment here that he because this for me this is that these guys make it hard on their own attorneys and you guys as a whole because they expose so much via social media and as they build the case for the state or government. And
exactly.
and that's that for me. That's when I'm starting. I agree with you, 7 Mile, awesome, Dre. When you're looking at it and someone's building that case, they're building the case against themselves, which is what I'm looking at. Okay, so he's built this case. I have to sit there and somehow, and I need you to stay off the social media, quit self snitching, which is what a lot of these young dudes they're doing. They self snitching. They talking about they're putting all their stuff out there for everybody else, and it's like you said, the uphill battle is difficult. Because for me, like you said, you talking about the tricks of the trade on the back end. But even with the tricks of the trade on the back end, what I'm looking at is does that make
No,
can,
I remember there was like back in the day, right? We'll take Friday, a Friday reference. Craig's like, "Hey man, they don't got me on tape." You know, what I'm saying? So like, why are people recording it? You're recording your crimes now. Matter of fact, now you're putting your crimes it as your title now. It's like it's it's like, come on now. It's like, or from the era I'm from, I was like, hey man, you don't got me on tape.
but you notice that was all he said. He never said he did it. He never said he didn't do it. He just says they ain't got me on. You watch that entire movie. At no time does Craig
exactly.
one time say I did it or no, I didn't do it. He never said one way or the other. Only thing he ever said was they ain't got me on tape. Go back and watch that. I said, man, I love how he went about doing it because it was like they ain't got me on tape. That's the only thing he said the entire time through. It wasn't I did it. It wasn't I didn't do it. None of that. Just they ain't got me on tape. Now, whether they had
Yeah.
him on tape or not, we don't know. And when you watch the movie, but it's just the fact that that was all he said. He never said he did it. He never said he didn't do it. He didn't. He wasn't posting on social media. He wasn't. Well, granted, as a back then it was the beepers or whatever, but he wasn't in there sitting there telling everybody. And everybody who asked him, the only thing he had to say about that entire case was, "They don't got me on tape. They ain't got me on no tape." That was it.
That's it. So but yeah, hey man, my phone is dying and I cannot find my charger. So I'm probably gonna get up out of here.
No worries. I said we're gonna begin to shut it down here. I want to read these last two comments before we actually get on out of here. It says, "This is why I have no sympathy. Look at the dictionary between shit and syphilis. That's
Major pain. Major pain
I
reference.
love that Major Pain reference.
Yeah, major
You
pain.
don't make me. I'm sorry. Let's see. What's the last one here? Again, it's that the reference to the as a love that as a so yeah as a so in looking at this whole situation with this whole case with that young boy Pharaoh, man, the thing I would emphasize people don't get in your attorney's way, don't get in your own way. Make sure that you sit there and you stay out of your way, stay out of your attorney's way. Don't sit there and publicize it. Quit oversharing. Everybody they want to sit there and you want to stick your chest out and show just how tough and how big and how bad you are. As a don't do it. Just
Yeah,
don't.
don't do it. You have to understand somebody's always going to be more hood than you. You have to understand that you're just the flavor of the month. Like, hey, everybody's gonna get the little 15 minutes of fame. And then after your fame is up, it's over. So uh, just know, just don't do it. Like, stop oversharing. And matter of fact, you want to say something for yourself, for being, privacy. Like, hey, you want to say a certain facet for yourself, for your kids, your family, your wife. Like, hey, man, stop putting everything out there. Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
And if you're gonna sit there and say something along those lines, and you are an entertainer, just make sure that you clarify it at the end of it, and you say it that this is just for entertainment or something
Entertainment
along those
purpose
lines.
only. Yeah. Entertainment
As a,
purposes only. Yeah. Huh.
it's kind of like right now where I'm going to tell everybody this is not legal advice. We are talking about a legal topic today. We talked about a legal topic today. I am not your attorney. I say, and I want to make sure that I tell everyone out there today that what we talked about while being a legal topic was not, is not, and shall not be legal advice.
Entertainment purposes only. I don't want to get no phone call talking about, hey, hey man, hey, I heard, hey, peace, family. Hey, I heard that you can help me out. Nah, man, no, thank you, no, thank you.
Hey man, I agree. Anybody who thinks that you could have been an attorney, I has a 7 Mile awesome Dre. You definitely could have been. I can tell you by going through law school and everything else. It's not what the law should have been taught in high school. It literally should have. There's no ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it. What we like to say is we say a legal mistake is not a defense. So you like if as a being able to say, oh, I shot him and it was self-defense. You can't use a legal mistake. I didn't know that was illegal as a, but we hold you to the law, but we don't tell you what it is. And I think that how the law works and how it functions is something that's important. There's a street law program that they're currently having. There's a street law program I'm trying to get into right now. Where we talk to kids in schools, in high schools and the like, because we're holding our youth. And this, I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna leave on this one. And actually, let you close this out, and I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna give an anecdote before I step off on this one and get on out of here.
Hey man, hey, I just want to just thank everybody for viewing it, and I appreciate everybody who comment, like, subscribe, man. If y'all want a part two, and we can go deeper, in other cases and things like that. Hey, let's at least put some likes up there. Once you share it for us and all that good stuff, and hey, and we're open for feedback and as well. So I just want to thank y'all. Hey, peace, love, and blessings. And my phone's about to die. I'm at 1%, so I'm gonna go ahead and bow out. Hey, Mr. Black, it's always been a pleasure. Appreciate your invitation.
Thank you very
much. Peace and love to you and your family, and everybody's listening. Peace and love to you and your family.
Thank you. I'm gonna get this anecdote, and I'm cutting out. Thank you very much for chopping in, West Dramas. My son has a 7 Mile awesome Dre. My son, I call myself trying to get out the block, right? So move from Third Ward up where I'm the suburb that I'm in right now. My son growing up in high school, I was in law school, and he asked me what was I studying that day in law school, and kind of flippantly, kind of very condescending. I'm like, oh, you wouldn't know. Da, 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 da. He's like, no, Dad, I really want to know. So I tell him what it is I was studying that day in law school. We were talking about, it was a criminal law class that I had that particular day. We were talking about mens rea, and we were talking about actus reus. And I told him, well, we talked about actus reus and mens rea. My son goes, oh, you're talking about the actual act and the mental state required for the criminal act as well. I paused, I looked, I'm like, where did you learn that at? I know I just read that information the other night. He said, oh no, I got it in my government class in high school. So in these suburbs where these white folks are at, they're teaching their kids the law. They're teaching them how the law applies. They're teaching them the facts about the law. It's one of the reasons why I really want to get involved in these street law programs specifically for our young people, because they're going through these indoctrination centers and they're getting these lessons in things that they probably will never use in life, but the stuff that's going to be affecting them every single day of their life, they're not getting that information at all. And that's where I have the issue at. That's where I have a problem with it at, is looking at it from that perspective, that as young Black men in our communities, young Black women in our communities, we're not getting the information, we're not getting the education on things that we're going to be held accountable for but we're just that there, we're put out there in a lurch. And it's one of those things that has a, if you think that you can go to law school, has a, even though you might not be able to practice, and I'm gonna say, yeah, like if you have the 3 felonies, you might not be able to practice because you have to pass what they call a character and fitness, and they'll hold that against you. Should they? That's an, has a no. But if you've paid your price to society, I don't think that that should be held against you once you're out. However, they're more than likely going to hold it against you on not being able to practice, but learning what the law is, learning how to think like an attorney, learning what the law is in all of those different facets, all those different assets. They are assets to you. And I was thinking assets is they're going to be an asset to you. I got ahead of myself, but it's an asset to you. I would encourage anybody, if you can just drop in on law classes or to learn about the law, do it. Learn how it actually functions, learn those little tricks, talk to attorneys. I would say definitely do it. If it has a, there's a financial cost to it, I would say, but yeah, as a, if you never heard it, I apologize, but yeah, I say, but it's that term actus reus, that's the actual act. Mens rea is the mental state that you have for the act. So whenever you go through any state, like here in Texas, there's the Texas Penal Code. In California, there's a CPC. That's a California Penal Code. I believe Pennsylvania also has a penal code. I haven't looked. I looked at the when I was researching your video and dealing with Bill Cosby. I had to go through and look at some of those aspects as far as immunity and whatnot, what Pennsylvania requires or whatnot, and look at what the case law is. But the mens rea that you're going to be dealing with, whenever you look at a crime, there's going to be what they call the elements. You probably heard the attorneys talk about the elements of the crime. You're going to be looking at what are those elements. Part of the elements that you're going to be looking for is the mental state that you have to have, and they're going to give a definition in the penal code. They're going to give you a definition for it that you have to have for that particular crime. So say like it's a murder. One of the things that they'll have, in many states they'll have like is willful, intentional, neglect. I say neglect or reckless, right? Would be your mental state, right? Each of those, they have to prove that has a, and they'll tell you how you have to prove or what's necessary in order to prove that a person they intentionally killed somebody, or they willfully did this act that killed somebody, or they were reckless, which now drops it down to, in some states like in California, it drops you down from murder 1 down to murder 2. In Texas, I say anyway. So the point being, in addition to did you do it and whatnot, it's did you intend to do it? Were you reckless when you did it? Is it a felony thing that you do it while you were committing another felony that you knew that you were committing another felony? Those are things that when you look at the crimes, you have to understand all the different elements, including the mental state. And some crimes don't always have a mental state. Some crimes are what we call strict liability crimes, or even in torts, there would be strict liability torts. But a strict liability one would be something along the lines of, say, statutory rape. It doesn't matter what you were thinking, right? It just matters did you sleep with this underage minor or not? That's the only thing that matters in a situation along those lines. So whenever you're looking at a situation along those lines, it's what are those elements, and is it a strict liability crime? If it's strict liability crime, you're not even concerned about whether or not there's a mental state that's associated with the crime, because there's not going to be one. Statutory rape, it doesn't matter. She can sit there and tell you that she is of age. She can pull out an ID and hand you an ID that says that she is of age. She can have her friends and have a birth certificate that has been fabricated that says she is of age. And only thing that the court is going to concern themselves with in a strict liability crime, there's no mental state. It's like, I thought she was of age. No, she showed me her I have her driver's license. She even showed me her birth certificate, right? It does, none of that matters in a strict liability crime that I thought, and this is what I had to rely on. Only thing that matters is, did you do it or did you not do it? The actus reus is the only part with the strict liability crime. Everything else, there is a mental state that goes along with it. So when you're reading those crimes or whatever it is they're charging you with or whatever it is that you're facing, don't just look at the actual act, but look at the mental state and look at the definition for the mental state. And then also the other aspect of it, look in case law, because sometimes as attorneys would do is that's kind of ambiguous. That's a term of art that they define it well. And then they'll argue about, well, what does it mean substantially? Or what does it mean? I think that this means substantial, and then the other person says this means substantial. So when you're looking at it, and you're looking at those things. If you're pro se, make sure you look at that mental state as well. Let's see. Do you have time to jump on and ask a question? You can always jump on. I say this is not legal advice. This is definitely not legal advice. I'll stay on for about another 5 minutes. The link has already been dropped, so I'm gonna stay on for about 5 more minutes. But yeah, so if you have a question for me, you can definitely hop on and we can talk. But not legal advice. But as far as mental states go, yeah, I'd say mens rea in most. Let me see. Does Pennsylvania have a mens rea have that in their CPC? As you're hopping on here, oh, here he goes.
My
7 Mile, awesome Dre. What's going on, brother? How's everything going there, black man?
my guy, Savior Black man. It's a pleasure. I was sitting here enjoying the content, and I had came across it in the feed. I didn't get a notification, and so I definitely had to come on to support, man.
Appreciate it.
I know you gotta go, but something that bothers me. I know this isn't legal advice, but something that maybe you can satisfy a question that I have.
Okay. Which talking? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. We both familiar with the felony murder rule, which basically says, it doesn't matter, whatever the circumstance, hypothetically, we clearly speaking hypothetically, a guy, decides that he's going to take an old lady's purse, which is a robbery. And in the process, she has a heart attack and she passes form. And he can be charged with felony murder and convicted because the robbery itself is the only help me out, is the only thing that they're focused on. But yet we have what's the word I'm looking for? We have degrees in murder. So can you kind of clarify that for me? And you see what I'm saying? How can you have one without the other?
Yeah. So and normally, and I'm looking as we're talking, I'm trying to go to what Pennsylvania's codes are because
I'm actually in West Virginia, by the way, but
okay. So I was going to look at Pennsylvania, but I can take a look at West Virginia's as well. But
just anything you could give me along those lines, because I like to talk to guys, and I'm always talking to black men about making good decisions, because a lot of our people don't really understand what we're up against when we get inside those courts. You might as well be speaking Chinese. You know what I'm saying?
Because they'll say something and you think it means one thing, and you actually walked into something entirely different.
Yes.
So normally with felony murder, in most jurisdictions that I've seen, felony murder normally deals with, like I said, you went in there and you committed a felony, and during the course of that felony, somebody got killed, and then they're going to charge you with that death or with that murder as well, right? So it's like, okay, so hypothetically, so like I said, you robbing an old lady, you take her purse, you run off, she sits there, she has a heart attack, and then she dies from the heart attack that was caused. If they can connect the cause of the heart attack to the robbery, then they have a felony murder charge, right? But they would have to make that connection. So you're trying to see if you can disconnect, like what are you talking about, separate it from the murder from the robbery. And I would have to look at what you would want to do if you were in a situation like that would be to look at the West Virginia statutes on felony murder. Different ones, they call it different things, but it'll be felony murder in one state. Another state like Texas doesn't call it felony murder. Trying to remember what the term is that we have. I just drew a blank, but in Texas we don't call it felony murder, but it's felony murder. So when you look at the statute, it won't be termed felony murder, but when you look at all the elements, it's felony murder. So you'll look at it in the statute. You look and see, well, okay, what do they have all the elements? Are all the elements of it met? Then you would, if there's anything in there that might be suggestive of what we call a term of art. So like a word like significant, something that you could sit there then you would try and go look at case law to see how in previous cases, how's the court ruled at the appellate level or even at the Supreme Court level. But in your state, how's the court ruled on that term? What does that mean in this particular case? So as you're looking at it, you're okay, they've interpreted that this term means this, right? Because you're just dealing with interpretation. How did somebody interpret that term? Because like significant, something like to you, significant might be this amount, and to me, significant is this amount, right? So you're looking to see how does the court interpret those things. So in a situation like this, I have to go and find West Virginia's law, but I would have to look at West Virginia and see what West Virginia says, and then also look at case law for West Virginia on how have they interpreted those terms, because you're trying to see if you can, like you said, separate the murder or the death from the underlying felony would be one way on how you would approach it. And then if you're not able to, also looking at and making sure that you have all of that in your back pocket regardless, right? So when you're researching it, you want to look at case law on it, what's relevant case or what's still good law, right? Because sometimes you might have a case that gets superseded by something else. But do you have a local law library around by any chance where you're at?
Yes, sir. Not too far away from here. I say about a mile. I won't be here too much longer. I'm originally from Detroit, but I've just been down here for like a couple years. But I'm actually moving to. Actually, it's funny. I got a cousin that stays out in Houston. She's been begging me to come stay out there. She loves me to death, and so I'm between Houston and Georgia. Those are two kind of I'm between there and Atlanta, but I got to go somewhere where my people are at.
I get you. I say I got family in both locations. So
Okay.
what I would tell you is go down to your law library. Once you find the case, the statutory stuff, you can find that online. That's you don't need anything for the statutory stuff. The case law, I would say, go down to your local law library, talk to the law library, and tell them that you're looking for information on felony murder and how whatever the terms are that you're interested in, on how they've been interpreted. And they'll be able to, because most law libraries in the area will have access to what we call Westlaw or to LexisNexis, which is you hop in on there and they can start telling you can start looking up the cases by keyword searches to see, okay, these are all the cases that have referenced in the jurisdiction where you're at this particular term, and this is how they've interpreted at this court level this particular term, and then they can tell you whether or not it's still good law or if it's bad law, and something else has now superseded that case. That's, as an attorney, that's what you're walking in there. You're looking, okay, what's case law, what's not case law. You're looking at how do you segregate or separate the different charges from one another, so you can sit there and see if you can just focus on just one particular charge, and try to get the murder out of there. That's the one I would definitely say. If there's the one that you want to get out at all costs would be the murder. If you have like a robbery and a murder, I would rather sit there and deal with the murder. I mean, the robbery as opposed to the murder. So if you can get that out of there and show that, like if you're talking to the DA, be able to show like, well, they're telling you this today. Well, statutorily it states this, but not only that, case law, this case states da 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 da. So when you're talking about that, that's not even applicable. Well, we can talk about that. Okay, well, let's see if we can get that information. That evidence is not even relevant. We're going to get suppressed based off of whatever, right? So you're also looking at rules of evidence would also be another issue that you have. So there's rules of evidence on whether or not you can suppress some types of evidence that might come up in your case. You don't want to talk too much or too extensively about the case, especially if you're pro se, because anything you can say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The opposite is not true. Anything you say cannot be used for you, right? So even if you're innocent as all day long, that's hearsay.
Okay.
But if it's against you, they can use that all day long in court, right?
I should tell you, Mr. Black, the three cases, they're civil cases, and they're just more along the lines of police brutality, things that have happened in the context of
cases.
Yes, federal case. I've actually been trying to get attorneys here, but they won't take them because of who it involves, and so they thought I was just gonna give up. But little do they know they dealing with a guy who don't really know. I'm a little different, saying, yeah, Black.
Yeah.
They didn't really expect for me to come as hard as I did. So I filed my own cases, and I've been dealing with my own motions, and they do a good job of trying to avoid me and stuff like that. But I said, I'm just going to mess the courts up and make a mockery of this thing until you all give me an attorney. I've called outside attorneys. You know what I'm saying? The cases are absolutely legitimate, and they're absolutely real, and I absolutely have injury. They just didn't want to deal with them because they just didn't want a Black man messing up the courts.
Well, if you have something along those lines, like say, if you're in a civil case, it sounds like you have a tort is what you're dealing with if you're dealing with civil cases. And if you're dealing with a tort, then that's something you absolutely I would like I said, you talk to a couple of tapes, just shop that around, especially if it's. I don't know what the evidence is that you have for it, either for or against it.
You name it.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
because if you have evidence for it, I'll tell you a story. There was a person who had a tort, and they shopped it around. Like they talked to one attorney, and they had a videotape. They had one. This is back when it was relatively new to have those dash cam cameras, and they had a videotape of this accident they were in. And they talked to an attorney, and that attorney's like, "Oh no, well, they were looking at it from like you're only going to get this for this and that for that." Blah, blah, blah. Then they talked to another one. Then they talked to another one, like, "Oh, I got a video of it. I got a video of it. It was on disc." It's like, "I got a video of it. I got a video of it." They got to probably the fourth or fifth attorney. It's like, "I got a video of it." The attorney looked at the video. Was like, "Oh, this is. I'll do this on contingency basis." Is what the attorney did it on.
Right.
Yeah, they looked at that. They were like, "Wait." They looked, and all the other attorneys, like, I guess being lazy, didn't look at it. They actually, that one attorney looked at it like, "I'll do it on contingency." It was like, this individual, they shopped it around and they got to this one particular attorney. He looked at it. He was like, "Slam dunk. We're good." It was granted no such thing as a sure thing, but it looked at it. It was like, "Oh, we're good." And sure enough, I say that individual ended up with a substantial settlement at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't six figures, it was five figures, but it was substantial five figures is what they ended up with for a car accident. And
I
it was
beat
all,
Mr. Black not too long ago. I beat him. I beat Milton Police, the Milton Police Department. They pulled me over. Basically, they said that for speeding, which I was a few years back, and he told me to roll my window all the way down. I said, no, I don't have to roll my window all the way down, but I'm more than willing to give you my license and registration. And so I'm trying to give it to him, but he wouldn't take it. What he does is he comes from the other side, but they bust my window out, drag me out the car. You know what I'm saying? To be all because And so I sued him for that. And so I won that one. And this I just got lost with it. So I learned. I'll tell you what I learned, Mr. Black, and I don't want to hold you because I know you have to go. But what I've learned is the same laws that enslaved man is the same ones that were liberated. And so what I made it my business to do was to learn these things and said, you know what? I'm going to take the knowledge that I got from the streets and I'm going to learn this stuff in these books. And so the time that I was away, I spent my time learning how these people think. I'm going to be nice on your platform. You know how I talk.
No, I got you. I got you. I feel you on it though. Like you said, you understand how they thinking.
Yes.
Now you can start using that system against them. And a lot of times it's like,
and that's my goal. That's been my life's mission in order to use the same. I tell black men all the time, especially on my channel, you brothers have to start to use the tools that are at your disposal until we're able to change. Now we know that they're going to do whatever they can in order to keep you out of the system. We get that, but that's still not an excuse, brother. You still have to use the tools that are at your disposal until we're able to make our own rules.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because we're stuck on in this country. You're stuck on there. If you go back to what Elijah Muhammad talked about anything as far as black people beginning to have or be self-determining, you need land. So we're not it's the United States of America. You're on their land. They have set the laws. Even with the natives who they say they're giving them their own reservations or whatever.
Yes.
When the laws conflict, they go with the U.S. law. So understanding that we're not right now able or in that position to physically go into some kind of a warfare with the U.S. in order to get your own plot of land where we can have our own self-determination, our own laws, then learn what are the things that they're utilizing against you in order to keep you down, and how is it that they're doing it? What is it that they're doing in order to successfully keep you down? And a lot of times we go like, oh, well, they just got lucky. It's like if you get into a fight with somebody, right? You get in there, like you do MMA or whatever, and you get in there and somebody beats you. Every time you get beat, you go, well, oh, they just got lucky. And you never bother to see, okay, well, what's that technique that they use? Or if you're on the ball court, like how you talk, I don't know if you heard about like Kobe Bryant used to sit there after he sat there, played against somebody, like he played against Reggie Miller, he'd be like, okay, how'd you do that step back? What did you actually do in order to get that, right? Yes. So that if you don't bother and you just go, oh, he just got lucky. He just got that shot off. He was lucky. He was lucky. He was lucky. No, they doing something. Yes. What are they doing? Figure out what it is they're doing. Start to use that against them. Now you know, okay, he keeps going to his right. Every time he dribbles to his right, he's trying to get to this spot. I just need to deny him to get to that spot. Then now they'll do that most deaf thing where it's like, soon you start keeping up the pace and start changing the tempo, then they can start changing the rules. But if so long as you know what they're doing, okay, now they change up the rule. Now they know I got them. Okay, I got them now, right?
And that's it. I'm trying to tell black men to use the Mr. Black. I can't tell you how important this information is. What you're doing. I know that there aren't anyone. There are. I think we have one young lady watching, but I want you to just stay encouraged and keep it up because this information is so needed in our community, especially in our space. There's so many brothers that their ignorance is and it's killing us. You know, this I'm trying to tell brothers about this USC 1983 lawsuit. I'm like, brothers, if you brothers have a federal violation, you can actually bring it to the courts. You brothers can actually get not reparation, but you brothers help me out, Mr. Black.
You can actually get a remedy. You can
remedy. Thank you.
You can absolutely get a remedy in court.
They put it in there for you to use, black man. You know what I'm saying? But they don't tell you about this stuff because you don't know. I got 3 of them in. You know what I'm saying? And I man, look here, Mr. Black. I'm here listening.
Do you know who uses 1983 cases? And it wasn't even written. Those 1983s wasn't even written. Like those laws were written specifically for black people.
Yes, they were.
And I've got to be careful how I say this, but that other 4-letter, 5-letter, whatever group that's out there, they use it all the time for themselves, right?
Oh, I got it.
Every other group out there uses the things that were initially set up and put in place for us, except for us.
Yes.
Right. And and we're the only ones that's like, oh, I don't need to know that. It's like, it reminds me of that old Chris Rock joke where it's like, you want to hide anything from a nigga? He's like, you put them in books. And I'm like, nah, that should be we at one point in our community, we were the most learned. We love learning. We love to sit there not only were we physically, but like you said, I just got to keep, I'm not quitting that. I'm not going to do, I'm trying to do every time I talk to TLA, he keeps me like, keep it going. I'm like, all right, I'll keep going. Sometimes it's like, I don't feel like, but it's like, I'll keep it going. But yeah, but I want to get it to the point within our community where it's like, it's cool to sit there and know this stuff. And not only is it cool to know this stuff, like I said, I'm trying to get involved with these street law projects that they have that's going on. They're trying to put them out nationally, but they're trying to get into the schools. Like I said, my son, like moving out to the suburbs, stuff I learned in law school, he learned in high school, right? Ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it. They make sure that their kids know it before they actually get out there. Our kids get out there, we throw them to the wolves. They get out there and they have no idea about what it is they're getting held to. Here's the standard. Wait, I didn't know that was a standard. Too bad. We're gonna lock you up. It's like, but like you said, if you knew it, then you're like, wait, you busted my window. That's abuse. That's excessive force. That's Absolutely. A 1983 case. Wait, that's a 1983 case also. And it's like, oh, okay. I'll tell you what. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got the Jolly Rocks off. But what I'm gonna do, what's coming next is you're gonna pay me for this, right?
Big facts.
You get enough of that, it's gonna be like, okay, we need to change how we're doing this.
Mr. Black, can you imagine? I could just sit here and listen to you talk for hours. Could you imagine what type of dent that black people could make in the system if we just choked it with 1983 pro se lawsuits backed up? Can you just imagine like what type of, you know what I'm saying? Like can you, that is the one thing that they don't want. They do not want you accessing the courts. And they tell you that you have a right to access, but you know what I'm saying? And it sounds good in the, you know what I mean? But when you actually go looking for these things that they tell you that you can get, then all of a sudden they're going to do what they can to, like this young lady said, move the goalposts.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like, so when they start doing that type of stuff, anytime you look at a Supreme Court, like the Supreme Court of the United States, a lot of times I like to read those opinions they hand out. And sometimes they'll make decisions, and the decisions that they'll make will be based off of, if we allowed this, then it would open the gates of litigation that all of these cases will come up to the Supreme Court. So like what you just stated, they don't want the work. So they try and start crafting their decisions in a way that keeps them from doing more work. And that's the least it has and if they got enough of them, like you said, if you start choking that system in and they start looking at, if everybody who had a 1983 case bought a 1983 case, the county clerks would be happy. The courts would be upset. They would be livid.
Mr. Black, I can't think of anything else that is as substantial for black men. That true legislation has been made, because I've often said that the 4 or 5 letter community has figured out a way. I did a video on it. They
Yeah.
figured out a way to make it a hate crime if you put your hands on them. We can't figure out how to stop an unarmed black man from being murdered in the streets in cold blood. And I said, and I went off it, like I'm a gentleman, always try to, I be having to hold it together, Black, but I'm quick to, because I say it how it come, and I don't care, because I know I'm saying the truth, and I may have a GD, I may not be as intelligent or articulate as another brother, but I know I ain't telling no lies.
No, I say, and this one was. This is what I want to get across for all of us, because sometimes we get hung up on is a GED. I've seen many a guy in college that only had a GED in college. I was a horrible student in high school. In high school, I was a DNF student, right? C DNFs. In college, I was an AB. I was an AB honor roll student, right? And where you're at is not it's that the letter grade that you have at those ages. Like, then you can see I'm having a hard time talking right now. It's not indicative of your intelligence level. And a lot of times we start taking it like, oh well, we try and figure out ways on how you can start pushing people out of the system, and it's not good. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it at the so be it.
I want to thank you for the video. So be it. I want to thank you for the video that you did. It was really, really great. And it did me good. And I showed it my brother. I say, well, they say you do know a little something. They think I'm dumb. I said, okay, I know.
Oh no,
yeah,
you were spot on. I say on everything. Like I said, there was just it was just those two things, and then the Bill. I don't know. I'm partial with
the Bill Cosby thing. I know you didn't quite see it that way, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'll do some research on him. It just bothers me when people when I think that people will use our community when they need us.
I agree.
You don't need us when you don't need us. So
yeah, I say, because like when you said OJ Simpson, I agree with you on OJ Simpson. The Bill Cosby one, I was like, and like I got another one supposed to be coming out it's either tonight or tomorrow on Deshaun Watson, because they're railroading his brother because he went through he just hit this whole deal with the grand jury. And I don't know if you understand how a grand jury works in Texas.
Yes,
the grand jury to indict somebody, that is a one-sided affair.
Yes, it is.
That is, the prosecution gets to present all of their evidence. Nobody else gets to be in there. The defense doesn't. You don't even get to know if there's a grand jury coming in and indict you. So
there's not even a judge.
No, the judge can't even come in.
People don't know that.
Yeah, people don't realize the judge is not legally. Nobody else is allowed in there to hear the hearings besides the prosecution to present all of its evidence, and the grand jury to hear it. You can have a bailiff and you can have witnesses, and the witnesses can only be in there when they're going to. So if Tony Busby has 22 people that he's given that information to the DA, and they go in there and they put on a one-sided case and say, here's all of our evidence. And a grand jury, and it doesn't have to be unanimous. It doesn't be a unanimous 12, just 9 people in the state of Texas. Yes. Just none of that 12 has to say, yes, we think that's enough for you to indict, take this to trial. Just 9 people. And they couldn't get 9 people to hear the evidence that they had without anybody contravening. Nobody like, well, yes, but have you considered? None of that. Just getting and then they said, okay, no bill. They know that in Texas we call it a no bill. There's no indictment. They went through that whole process, and after going through that whole process, they no billed it. And now every time I turn around, I hear Max Kellerman, I hear Nick Wright, I hear who is it? Several other people like Stephen A. Smith. All these people going like, "Oh, Deshaun Watson is horrible." I'm like, they had a one-sided case, and they couldn't even get an indictment. I'm like, and we're still sitting there talking about. I'm like, in my head, I'm going, are you guys trying to railroad this, brother?
It'll be great when you see. I did a video on it briefly. I didn't touch on the legal aspect of it. I want you to check it out and think and tell me what you think. Or from a man to a man, from a guy who's been around a lot of criminals and been involved in criminal behavior at a later date. You know, I'm totally retired now. I will say this. When 22 women say something happened, it's a little hard for me to believe that something at a minimum of inappropriate didn't happen. But that doesn't mean That doesn't mean it rises to a criminal level. And that's what I said. And this is America, so it's not. So I got into that. I want you to check that video out and tell me what you think about it.
Yeah, because this whole thing, like in California, it gets really bad. I'm originally from California, but it's just this whole deal where you could sit there and be with a woman that night or whatever. You guys had a good time, you guys drank or whatever. Something happens that night. You guys come back, and she goes, "Well, I just want to let you know I didn't consent." And you go, "What do you mean you didn't consent?" I was pushing up on you. You let me go. Da, 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 da. There was no. I didn't like force you, like hold you down and pin you or anything like that. Up on your neck. I'm sitting there blowing you. You sit there. I'm open your shirt up. Blah blah blah. Whatever. All this stuff that happens, and you go, "Oh, well, I didn't consent." It's like, wait a minute. What? And in California, that would actually be. She can actually pursue that as a crime. And I'm like, wait a minute. We need to start setting some guidelines on how it is we interact with each other as men and women on what's permissible and what's not. So
could not agree more.
Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, if he's sitting there, because the information that came out that I seen is he gets in there, he's getting a massage. He's like, he rolls over. It's like, hey, you want to take care of this also? They're like, no. He's like, all right, cool. He still pays them for the massage.
Mm-hmm.
Done deal. And I'm like, okay, so if in my head, this to sound very horrible. I'm sure there's some women that are like, oh my God, I get it, right? They're probably sitting there listening to this and they hear me talking about it and they're going, oh my God, how could you feel that way, right? And I'm like, okay, in my head, I'm going, if I'm pushing up on you and the way that our society has been structured up to date has been, it's a man that sits there and makes those advances. And then she either tells you no or yes, right? And you get to, and if there's no, then you continue going forward. And if there's a no, then you back off. But if they're not giving you any no's and you sit there, you still put, like, if he opens his towel up and like, hey, you mind giving, sir, this is not that type of establishment. Got it. Sorry. Let me, he puts, and then she goes, and the only reason I say it that way, there was a black masseuse that was messing with him. That she had a statement. This was back when it was really first starting off. She told him, "You need to slow down. Your name is getting out there, and it's not getting out there in a good way." This was and then her friend did the whole Linda Tripp, Monica Lewinsky, and list that information out. So anyway, it's like she told him, and she's like, and then she had to come back. Yes, I told him X, Y, and Z because X, Y, and Z. And he's never done anything like that to me, or he's always been a person. So whether or not they did anything or not, I don't know. I'm assuming that they probably did, and she's okay with it. But you get in there.
At most, Mr. Black, to be honest with you, I mean, just obviously from the from my untrained eye, obviously I would take I would go with you. It seems like at a minimum, he's something inappropriate happened to the point where he just may be a creep. You know what I'm saying? But that's not criminal. And that's the bottom line.
And that's where I'm like, if you were to tell me he's creepy, oh man, every time I go around Deshaun Watson, he's always sitting up there trying to fuck me, right? It's like he's always pushing up on me, or he's always, he just, I don't know. But is that criminal? And that's where I'm going.
There you go.
And for me in my head, I'm going, okay, so I'm hearing it's like what it sounds like to me is that it made an advance on you. You're thinking it's a professional environment. He shouldn't make an advance, which we can make an argument one way or the other on that, right? I'm not going to sit there and say that in a professional environment, you have a lot of guys who met their wives at work, right? So it's like you can't say that only in a professional environment when you have a guy who meets his wife at work, if he didn't make a move at work to sit there and try and push up on her, he wouldn't be married to her. But is he creepy? Probably.
Yes.
I say I'm not gonna sit. I can't make that argument like, oh nah. When I'm reading, I'm like, did he make some advances? More than likely. Did he sit there and ask them to probably give him a happy ending? Possibly. I say, but what he did he rise to the level of being criminal in nature? No. And then you have a one-sided argument where they heard and they go like, oh, come on now. That's essentially what happened. I'm like, and then everybody's still trying to make a big deal out of it, and they trying to mess with this brother's money. I'm like,
yeah. And I hate because Rusty Harden and his team are the ones who really, really win in this. I mean, well, technically, I would assume that he was worth every dime that he paid him because he wasn't indicted. So you know what I mean. So is he really as good as they say, or is he just really a mouth?
Are you talking about Rusty Harden? Or are you talking about
Yeah,
Deshaun?
it's it. Rusty Harden.
No,
Because I know
Rusty
that's
Harden.
who he got. Is he
Rusty
worth
Harden.
his salt?
I know he has as far as attorneys out there, he's also been on the opposite side of that. So
Okay.
he's done as an attorney, like I said, that gets very incestuous when it's like when you do the prosecution and the defense. Oh yeah,
Yes.
they're going where the money's at. And he has and that Rusty Harden makes a lot. Him and actually Tony Busby also very highly acclaimed. Have I seen them in action? No, but the reputation of them as far as what they've been able to accomplish has been a lot. They've accomplished quite a bit. So I can't sit there and say like, oh no, they're a hacker. They've accomplished quite a bit. So,
okay. Well, Mr. Brinkley, I'm not gonna hold you. I know you got to go, but can you, when you get an opportunity, check that video I did out on Deshaun Watson and give me your feedback. You know what I'm saying? Just tell me. It was just short. When I just wondered what you think. You know, I was
I'll do it tonight. While I'm editing my other videos, I'll do that tonight. I haven't looked at your channel in 2 days, so that means I'm 2 days overdue. So I need to get in there and take a look at it. Yeah, I subscribed. So be it, brother.
Thank you, brother. That's very kind. I want to earn my subscriptions, man. I want to earn. I lose a couple, but I don't mind. I'm gonna keep telling the truth to my people. I don't care. Bye.
Hey, I hear you. And that's where I'm at with it at this point as well. But be blessed, brother. And I am out.
You too, comrade. Please stay in touch.
Will do.
Yes, sir.
And we are out. I'm ending it on that. Be blessed, brother. We get on out of here.